All right, let's get back in it and learn a few key game concepts and 2 or 3 more keys. I was looking at these 2 cars that we have sitting here, and it's a great opportunity to learn the very basics of the most common things that we're going to do with cars. If I highlight this square next to the car, there's a little puddle. And when I look over here on underneath the vehicle screen, so we're highlighting this tile with the X Explore key, and it's going to show us the vehicle, which is a V6 Sports Coupe, and tell us what vehicle parts are on that square. Below all of it, I see in brown the word gasoline. There's gasoline leaking out the bottom of this vehicle, and I want to save that gasoline. I suspect that the tank of the vehicle is probably leaking. We've already covered how to use the E for examine key to examine a tile or vehicle. In this case, we can examine the vehicle. And I'm not going to get into everything on this screen. We'll take the vehicle screen in tiny bites. The tiny bite that we're going to take today is to look at the vehicle tank. As soon as I examine the vehicle, we don't even have to navigate around the vehicle parts like so. It's going to start here, which is tell us what kind of engine it has and that it's a gasoline engine. So this is the middle panel that we're looking at here. So we have a fine condition, because we got a good health bar on that. V6 engine with gasoline. Then it's going to tell us about the vehicle tanks. This vehicle has 1 tank filled with gasoline, so it says, and there are 2 red asterisks over the 9.8 liters marker. This is telling us how much gasoline is in the vehicle, but the 2 red asterisks are indicating that the tank is draining. It also tells us the capacity and status of the batteries, which they're at 0% and 2 red asterisks, which means the battery is or was draining. It's now completely empty of charge. So how do I get the gasoline out of the vehicle? We're going to cover that because I want to save it before it all drains away. And maybe I'll store it over here in this vehicle. I'm going to give this vehicle a quick look and let's examine it. This one tells us that we have a vehicle tank with diesel that is not draining. Well, we can't mix gasoline and diesel. Each tank can only hold 1 type of liquid. So if we try to put water in here, we're going to have to do something else with the diesel. If we try to put gasoline in here, we'll have to do something else with the diesel. That's not going to be a good place to store our gasoline. We could go over here and check this vehicle. We have a 3rd one parked at the golf course. Examining this one, it looks like we have another draining tank. What we really need to do is rescue the draining gasoline from this vehicle and store it for now. Now, our muscle car, which I don't remember where we parked, it's around here somewhere. See if I can zoom out. I think we parked on the highway down here. Yeah, there it is. I think our muscle car takes gasoline, so we may be able to transport it to that vehicle. But in any case, we need a way to siphon the fuel out, which is going to require a rubber hose, and we need a container to put it in. I have our solution, but it's going to require learning a new key. We need to know how to disassemble one of these items here. And the one that I'm looking at is the... Okay, where'd it go? There it is, the large fire extinguisher. Now, this is one of the most useful things that I learned about the disassembly menu in Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, which is why I want to share it with you early on in this tutorial. I'm going to highlight the large fire extinguisher and tap the E key to examine it more closely. It's going to give us all the basic information about it, the fact that it can serve as a bashing tool, what it actually does, and so forth, how many charges are in it, and so forth. Now, it should give us, there's a prediction about what we'll get if we disassemble. Almost all items will give us this disassembly prediction. So if you look, it says melee damage, stamina use, then it says average melee damage, charges, actions, then it says repair, and then under that it says disassembly. Takes about 2 minutes. Requires 1 tool with bolt turning of 1 or more, and might yield scrap metal, a rubber hose, and a steel jerry can. Now, a steel jerry can is exactly what we want to use to hold fuel. It has a higher capacity than the plastic jerry can. And it's not that usual to find a steel jerry can out in the world. But it's pretty often that I'll find large fire extinguishers, and I will disassemble them for the steel jerry cans and wind up with a large collection. I use them to store gasoline and diesel and water and other things. So anyway, interestingly, it's saying that it requires a tool with bolt turning of 1. So this is going to require us to learn the concept of tool quality. I may ask myself, does the lug wrench have a quality of bolt turning? It would kind of seem like it, right? So I'm going to hit E to examine the lug wrench, and it turns out it has the following tool qualities. I'll tell you where this is on the list. It goes down, take the highlighted white text, melee damage. Stamina use is the next one down, then average melee damage. Below that, it says has qualities. Level 1 wheel fastening quality. That's the actual tool quality of the tool. A lot of the other information here, unless we're looking for a tool to use as a weapon, is beside the point of what we're trying to figure out. Mainly we want to know what is the tool quality. And so level 1 wheel fastening quality is not going to satisfy the requirements. We can't disassemble a large fire extinguisher with a lug wrench. So I'm going down the list, and I assume I can't do it with a flint and steel or a folding knife either. I don't really know what a whistle multi-tool does, but I have an idea that a multi-tool may have the tool quality that we need. So I'm going to examine that. And under has qualities, which is beneath the actions, remove tool mods, write on an item, cut up an item. It has qualities: level 7 butchering, level 2 cutting, level 1 metal sawing, level 1 wood sawing, level 1 screw driving. I'm going to hit page down to see if there's more, and there is. Level 1 bolt turning quality. So that tool will do what we need it to do. So you may be asking yourself, how do I use that tool to disassemble the large fire extinguisher? All right. The disassembly key is Shift 9, or left parentheses. As soon as we hit disassemble, it's going to give us a list of all disassemblable items in our inventory and in the local area. Also, it will give us a prediction of what will come out of those disassemblies. So we can take apart a lighter to get a pilot light. We can take apart the multi-tool just to get scrap metal, which would be a horrible use of the multi-tool. We'll never be that desperate for scrap metal. But anyway, it does list that the large fire extinguisher is disassemblable with a rubber hose, steel jerry can, and scrap metal. All I have to do is tap enter and we will disassemble it. We will use the tool quality of the multi-tool automatically. So you may ask yourself, do I have to be standing on the tile? Do I have to have it in my inventory? Do I have to be adjacent to the tile? And so we're going to get into another concept. I'm going to grab the large fire extinguisher and take a few steps back. Now I'm going to hit the disassemble menu. And now under the disassemble menu, not only do we have a shorter list, because we're not near as many disassemblable things, it's only showing us our inventory. We need a tool with bolt turning of 1 or more. So we do not have access to that multi-tool from the square that we're standing on right here. I'm going to take a step forward. Nope, we still don't have access to it. Another step forward gives us access to that tool. So what I've just explained is how to use the multi-tool for disassembly. And this is a strange and amazing and wonderful concept in Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead. And once I discovered it, I wished every game that I've ever played or ever will play would have this crafting radius concept. And that is that 6 tiles around the character in every direction is our crafting radius. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From this distance, we have access to all the tools in that trunk. So what a wonderful quality of life improvement. This goes for all tools. This goes for the access to fire, access to water, and access to crafting ingredients. So this means that we can have a crafting room. We don't need a crafting table. And if you think about the way that Minecraft works, where you have to actually have the items in your inventory, and then you have to actually click the crafting table in order to use the crafting table. Well, if Minecraft worked the way that Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead does, you could walk into your storage room where your crafting table exists and everything is in storage and just start crafting stuff. Because we're just going to save the player a few steps here. And there's so many applications for understanding this crafting radius that, we'll be covering it episode after episode in different scenarios. But for now, just suffice it to know that the multi-tool being 6 tiles away and in this trunk is just as good as the multi-tool being in our inventory, and we don't have to wield or apply the tool. When we open the disassembly menu, we can highlight the large fire extinguisher and immediately start working on it. Now, what to do with the in-progress disassembly of the fire extinguisher. This screen really confused me for a long time, and I should be able to put it down and start working. But for some reason in experimental, it's highlighting store it in your inventory. But I should be able to put it down and start working, which is almost always the right option. Let's try it. Yeah, there we go. What that screen is asking us is, do you want to wield this and hold it in your hands to work on it? It's saying, I don't have an available counter space to automatically start working on this. So what do you want to do here? Put it down and start working allows me to keep my melee weapon in my hand. And it means that I'm putting the fire extinguisher on the ground and disassembling it there, which may be where the parts went. They should be laying on the ground at my feet. And yeah, they are. So I'm going to grab the resulting components, rubber hose and steel jerry can. So this is all to say, we're going to use one more car concept here. If I examine the car, we have multiple options here. And look, we've lost some gasoline just in the time that we've been out here hanging around. So we've got the options at the very top of the screen to install new parts, repair existing parts, to mend the engine. We can refill the tank. We can remove parts. We can siphon from the tank. We can unload. I believe unload does the cargo carrying contents and stuff like that, but I don't think I've ever used it. We can assign crew members. We can change part shapes. We can rename the vehicle, I believe. I think we can label component parts. I haven't used most of these options. I just usually do the things that I need to do. I should probably explore some of these options. But anyway, we could hit S for siphon, and it'll ask us what tank to siphon from. Now, when we click that tank, hitting enter, it wants to know whether we want to pour it into a container, fill another tank, because we can switch fuel from one tank to another, or pour it on the ground. Now, I'm going to hit escape to back out of this menu so that we can meditate on things for a bit. In my opinion, we cannot do this with the siphon key unless we have a rubber hose in our inventory. Now, we have a container to pour it in now, but I want to double check that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the rubber hose far enough away that we can't use it. So from this tile, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll just drop the rubber hose here. There it is. Okay, there's our rubber hose. We no longer have access to it. So I'm going to examine the vehicle, hit the siphon key, and see if we can pour it into a container. Can we pour it into the steel jerry can? Yes, we can. Now, did we have access to another rubber hose? Ah, that's the deal. I see. Okay, so there you go. These are the things, you're going to run into that could be very confusing if you don't know the basic concept. Initially, I was thinking that it shouldn't have given me the option to siphon because I didn't have access to a rubber hose. That's why I came over here and hit the G key to check. And yeah, in the back of this vehicle, there's a rubber hose. Now, because of tool radius, we were standing here, 1, 2, 3. We had access to the rubber hose here to use for siphoning purposes. So I couldn't demonstrate our inability to siphon this time around. Looks like there's also some adjustable wrenches and tongue and groove pliers here. Let's check their tool quality. Bolt turning and fine bolt turning and tongue and groove to level 2 bolt turning. Okay, so tongue and groove pliers we wouldn't need. Yeah, we would. Level 2 bolt turning quality instead of level 1 bolt turning quality. So yeah, we got lucky here in having a lot of tools in these two cars that we can use for a lot of purposes. Let's hit I to check our inventory and highlight the steel jerry can, which has 7,907 gasoline. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's milliliters. Another thing that confused me greatly when I first started playing Cataclysm. That's 7,000 milliliters, and that equates to 7.9 liters of liquid, and it's a 20-liter container. So that'll give you an idea of how full the container is. Anyway, we're out of time for this episode, and we'll get more into disassembly, tool quality, crafting radius, and so on in another episode.